Okay, we're back, and this is the second attempt to do part 2 of this video. So we were just talking about how WCW brought back this cruiserweight division in 2001 and re-emphasized it. And sorry, I've got this on timing, so I'll do this right. How they brought back this cruiserweight division and how the cruiserweight tag team division was being used, and now we were starting to see up and comers like AJ Styles and Kid Romeo be used in prominent positions. However, unfortunately, as the cruiserweight division looked like it was going to make that comeback in WCW, the buyout in the WWF happened. And during that time, I always thought the WWF would never do the same things that WCW did with the cruiserweight division, because they never had taken their light heavyweight division and guys of that size and style very seriously, with really the exception of Shawn Michaels, and he's not really a cruiserweight, but you know what I mean. And there were times when they did something with it, like when they brought Rey Mysterio in and pushed Rey Mysterio, but then they pushed him out of the division and actually put him as just below that stepping world title, wrestling guys like Kurt Angle and Benoit all the time. And then doing something with him and Matt Hardy and giving them the main event spot on SmackDown and giving them quite a lot of airtime to build that feud and storyline up, and people were into it. And it looked like that was to me, was the peak of the cruiserweight division when the WWE bought it out, because after that, nothing happened. The belt became a joke. Chavo Guerrero won the belt, and I don't mean Chavo made the belt a joke, but they had him in a comedy feud with Jacqueline and put the belt on Jacqueline. They put the belt on, who? What was the other guy? Chavo Classic. I mean, come on. Then they put the belt back on Ray. Then they get the belt on Spike Dudley. They put the belt on Funaki. They put the belt back on Chavo. And then they put it on Paul London. And then it looks like in 2005, we're going to see a reinvigoration of that division. They start signing Brian Kendrick, Jamie Noble, Psychosis, Juventud Guerrera, Super Crazy, Kaz from TNA, known as Frankie Kazarian at the time, who is now Suicide, accumulating all this talent, and you think, wow, they're actually going to do something with this division. They even brought Kid Cash in, and on SmackDown moved to Friday nights, I think it was, they were giving them some matches and doing just teeny things with them. And then, again, the same thing happened. They moved Gregory Helms over from Raw to SmackDown. Gregory Helms holds the belt for a year. That sounds impressive, right? No. He didn't do anything with that belt. Period. Absolutely nothing. And then they managed to get the belt from Helms onto Guerrero again and put the belt on Hornswoggle, and that's when the belt officially died. That's when the belt became the biggest joke ever. They have the Night of Champions. They're playing a video package of the belt. They're playing of its history. They've got Dean Malenko there getting a little round of applause in the audience. And then they put the belt on Hornswoggle. I think that was their way of saying nothing that WCW ever did was right. Nothing that they ever did was correct. And here's one of their most successful things. Well, we're going to tell you that it was the biggest joke ever, and we're going to make it the biggest joke ever by putting it on a comedy act. And that's what they did. And they did nothing with him. Instead, what they did is have him retire the belt and give it to Vicky Guerrero. So, just got a bit pent up there. What I'm going to talk about is when they need to create new stars. You don't necessarily have to have guys wrestling for the World Heavyweight title to have stars on your show. And the Cruiserweight division could be an example of this. And when I think of the Cruiserweight division, I think there's a belief that in their minds, guys of this size and style can't get over, they can't create the emotional attachment, and they can never draw whatsoever. When you look in the real world, however, it tells a completely different story. If Floyd Mayweather, Ricky Hatton, Oscar De La Hoya, and Manny Pacquiao, who are 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", 155 pounds, can do the big money fights that they have done in their careers, that tells me that guys of that size can be believable as athletes because they're presented as athletes. They're not presented as jokes. as the WWE presents a lot of their wrestlers, especially the cruiserweights. They have the tendency to get these guys of that size and stature, do something with them, and then just completely finish them off, bury them, annihilate them, get them destroyed by the latest big goon they have. And here's an interesting thing about that. Brian Kendrick had to have a tryout match for a WWE contract in real life. Nathan Jones didn't have to have a tryout match. You tell me. Anyway, back to what I was saying. If boxing can do that, and then to go even one step further, u.f.c, who have, and this is where I think they should get some of their ideas from, and when people say wrestling should be more like MMA, this is what I think people mean, and this is what I mean when I say that. George St. Pierre BJ Penn was one of the biggest fights of this year. It did an 800,000 buy rates. That's an incredible number, considering the WWE averages about 350, 200 buy rates. Yeah, George St. Pierre, who was 5'10", and BJ Penn, who was 5'9", who were both small guys who are not muscled up, jacked up, 6'10" monsters, are in the main event spot, and they're doing that, and they're doing a gate of over 14,000 people. And it was the most important fight for a lot of people. A lot of people still talk about that fight. It was one of the most hyped up fights. What's the excuse that the WWE have that they cannot do this with their cruiserweights? With a guy like Evan Bourne, who's over. With a guy like Tyson Kidd or Brian Kendrick, even though he's not in the company, or a Jamie Noble. They don't necessarily have to be world heavyweight title contenders. But if you spread the marketing out evenly, you could make them into something special. The UFC has done a tremendous job, and a lot of MMA promotions, but the UFC in particular have done a tremendous job in making each division important. They haven't just got their heavyweight division and said, this is the be-all, end-all of our company. Don't care about all the other things, don't care about all our smaller fighters. They really have to put on weight and fight in the heavyweight division if they want to be the best in the world. No. They've spread the wealth, so to speak. They spread the promotion and they spread the love and made the welterweight division just as important as the heavyweight division. Why can't we then have that in pro wrestling with the cruiserweight division and the world title division? You can have stars, big time stars in your cruiserweight division. And there are a lot of guys out there who could really do it. There's a guy like Mystico who they almost signed 2 years ago and probably still want to bring in, and he's a big draw. He's one of the biggest stars in wrestling right now. Don't believe me? Look at the numbers. Look at the gates that he draws. He's the biggest star in Mexico, and in wrestling, he's probably one of the biggest draws out there. He's probably one of the top 5 draws right now in pro wrestling. He could be a part of this. You've got so much talent out there. But if you want to, the problem is, and I'll have to get onto the next part of the video, so I've just got to stop right here and I'll come back.